be handing to Heather, who's going to introduce the 2026 data specifications and help you think about what's coming after Christmas. Giovanni will be doing next steps, and then we will have 15 minutes scheduled for questions, discussions, and any other business that you'd like to raise with us as the team. So we hope that that will allow you to get a good overview of what's coming next year. In terms of the housekeeping, you will have seen pop up already the fact that we are recording this session. It will be made publicly available in order that those who aren't able to join us today, or perhaps yourself who would like a refresh, are able to go back and look at the recording. So if you would prefer that your face is not available publicly, please do leave your camera off if you're asking a question. Otherwise, you're very welcome to turn on your camera and ask your question in person towards the end of the meeting. Second, to mention that the resources, so the specifications for 2026, will be available on the website tomorrow by close of play. We will also send some communications which will alert you that they are available to you, but they should be with you imminently, which gives us loads of time as audit leads to look at them and familiarise ourselves with them. As I've mentioned, please hold questions until the end of the meeting. But if you would like to pop your question in the chat as you go, then Joylin will be monitoring the chat and may be able to answer the question there and then, or we may come back to it in question time. So thank you, everybody. I can see that we're heading over 50% of the people who booked on the call. So I think we're ready to make a start. Jess, may I hand to you and may I ask you to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Mary. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Jessica Moss. I'm the Quality Improvement Lead for NACEL and really delighted to be with you today to talk you through some quality improvement stuff that we have on offer and what's coming in the coming weeks and months. Next slide, please.
So stuff that we have on offer and what's coming
in the coming
weeks and months.
I can hear an echo. Is that better? Yes, that's better. Thank you. So many of you will be very familiar about NACEL, but just a very brief reminder that we are an annual national data collection audit. We're looking at the quality and outcomes of care experienced by the adult dying person and those important to them in their last admission before death in hospitals. The overall goal, where it is needed, is to improve the quality of care to that dying person and those important to them. And the audit aims to do that by improving quality of end-of-life care by identifying areas of action and highlighting quality improvement priorities in line with evidence and guidance, reducing unwarranted variation, and we do that through benchmarking of data, as well as highlighting and managing outliers with appropriate guidance. We look to understand and reduce health inequalities, and we look to share and adopt best practice through many of our quality improvement outputs and examples. Next slide, please. So how do we achieve those aims? Well, that's under the umbrella of quality improvements. And we have tried to put in place several frameworks to help you as local providers to deliver quality improvements. And those frameworks range from our driver diagram, which a snippet can be seen on the right-hand side of the screen there. Those 10 drivers or those 10 areas of priority are really everything that underpins what we do in NACEL. There isn't a question that we ask or an area that we look at that doesn't have one of those drivers underpinning it. So everything that we do has that driver diagram as a framework, and therefore hopefully everything that you do as quality improvement locally, that driver diagram, those drivers can help support your work. Recently in August, we released a State of the Nations report, and in that included 5 recommendations. I think we would say as a team that if this all feels a bit confusing, the recommendations, the State of the Nations report would be really the place we would advise you to start. That framework has the most leverage in terms of trying to get quality improvement projects across the line and trying to get attention from senior leaders and boards. Then there are 5 improvement goals. They have been refreshed, so they are going to be released imminently. Those improvement goals align with the recommendations and align with the drivers. So whilst there is quite a lot, everything is aligned together. So wherever you start, everything is connected. And then for a high level audience, for example, the exec board or ICB colleagues, the 10 key indicators are another framework that give a very broad overview of the audit. And those 10 key indicators are selected 1 per driver. So the key thing for me to say here is that everything is connected. Wherever you start, you won't be missing anything. But if you're looking for a place to start, the State of the Nations and recommendations will give you the most leverage. Next slide, please. And so what are we doing as a team to support you with quality improvement? Well, firstly, there's the data and improvement tool, which many of you will be signed up to and hopefully be using. And I'll just talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Not everyone has access to the data and improvement tool. That is for colleagues and professionals who are interested in improving end-of-life care in hospitals. So for those people that don't have access to that tool, there is then the patient and carer tool, which currently showcases 5 metrics only and aggregates to a regional level. So members of the public can see NACEL data, but they can only see it at the moment at a regional level and only 5 metrics. And then we have the Good Practice Compendium, which is not new, but in this year is in a new format. So this is an online tool, which is interactive. This showcases 68 organisations that have demonstrated good practice in quality improvement and have described that well in the narrative that we got back from the hospital site overview. Though that tool can be used to search for quality improvement examples. So for example, if you're interested in recognition, there is a category that you can look at that will tell you all of the hospitals that have looked at recognition, what they have done and their results. Equally, if you're particularly interested in a quality improvement intervention, for example, educational training, you can select education and training in that Good Practice Compendium, and you can see how others are using that kind of intervention in their local practice. And then there is the Impact Compendium. So again, this looks quite similar to the Good Practice Compendium, but this describes how NACEL has impacted on local service delivery. So people will describe NACEL, for example, as being useful in business cases. And there are lots of other examples there. And again, that is themed, so you can look at specific examples that you are interested in. Moving over to the left, we have run quite a number of events to date. We've delivered 6 quality improvement webinars. They are all on our website recorded, so you can watch them if you wish to do so. And so far they have featured clinically specific topics such as recognition of dying, hydration at the end of life, spiritual, religious, cultural care, to name just a few. And then finally, there are resources on our NACEL quality improvement pages. So if you are particularly interested in forming your own driver diagram, for example, there are templates that you can download from that page to help you do so. Just a point on that, there are lots of hospitals that have their own quality improvements templates and standards. So please just check with your hospital before you have to duplicate your own work. So just double check that your hospital doesn't already have something that they like you to use before you take something from the NACEL pages, but you're very welcome to do that at any point. Next slide, please. So I said I would just talk a little bit more about the data improvement tool, and that's because this is the way that you can see all of your data and that of others as well. So this is a transparent tool. You can look at any hospital that is partaking in NACEL and see what their results are. The data improvement tool holds benchmarked results in a clear and hopefully user-friendly way. It's important to say this isn't perfect. It is a work in progress. We are constantly receiving feedback. We have a really long list of developments that we want to make to this. So you will see changes occurring, and we are very aware of the need of you all. But if there is any further feedback you have at any point, then please drop us a line. So we report performance against those 10 primary drivers, those 10 key areas that I spoke about in the driver diagram. That is how the data improvement tool is navigated. And the data can be shared and compared between hospitals and trusts, and it is also shared with ICB. So ICB colleagues now have access to that tool, and that is new from this year. If you don't have access to the tool, there's the link there. All you need to do is fill in the registration page. That will come to us, and we will approve you having access to it as long as your project lead at your hospital is happy for you to do so. Next slide, please. And so what is the impact of all of this work that we're doing? Because of the hard work that you do on the ground collecting the data, we're able to speak to the end-of-life care in hospitals on a really good standing. So we have been able to raise the visibility of UK end-of-life care. We share findings at leading conferences, we cite in academic research, and we're asked to provide evidence to really national level policy. For example, the 10-year plan, the Palliative End of Life Commission, they come to us for data. So that is your hard work and the fact that we can speak to end of life care in hospitals. We're in a position now where over 2/3 of ICBs have access to the data improvement tool. ICBs are the commissioning boards, and that it's an evolving language, isn't it? But they are really the ones who commission care, and they use the data to shape their strategy for end-of-life care and their commissioning decisions. We also this year have been invited to be in partnership with the Ambitions Partnership, which many of you will know very well. And that's really to ensure that audit evidence is directly used to inform national priorities. We also speak closely with NICE and with CQC. They both use our evidence. And we have quite a lot of academic citations, and we are an ambitious team who look for opportunities to use the NACEL data as much as possible. I spoke about the NACEL patient and carer tool. That's the tool online that people can access if they can't access the data improvement tool. And really the purpose of that is to make data transparent to the public, and it helps patients and carers understand what good care looks like and gives them confidence that their loved ones' voices are heard. I think that's all from me at the moment, but I will pop over to the chat box if there's any questions, or happy to take any questions towards the end, and I'll hand over to Heather.
Thank you very much, Jess, and thank you. Heather, we're handing over with about 5 minutes in hand to you. So please do feel free to use it if you need it. Otherwise, we'll contribute it to questions at the end. Thank you, Heather.
Lovely. Thank you, Mary, and thank you, Jess, for going through the QI support that we have available. So I'm going to go through NACEL 2026 now. So I'll cover the key changes that we've made and also highlight the things that have remained the same. So to start off with, the focus of the audit has not changed since 2024. We're still auditing the care against the 10 drivers to improve care at the end of life. We want to maintain those measures as much as possible so that we can track trends over time and support QI. That said, we have made a few updates to refine and improve the audit and to make it easier for users and participants to contribute to the audit. So the key changes that we've made in relation to reducing clinical burden. One of the biggest changes you'll see is the reduction of questions in the case note review. I'll go into a bit more detail of that later. We're also offering a more flexible approach to the bereavement survey, which we hope will help organisations who have been struggling to participate in 2024 and 25. Now, in 2025, we made the decision to alternate the hospital site overview and the staff reported measure to reduce the burden of participating in both. So while this year we ran the hospital site overview, that will be put on hiatus next year, and the staff reported measure will be picked up. And we're also going to be piloting the use of SNOMED codes in our guidance to facilitate data collection. This session will focus primarily on data collection, but as Jess has mentioned with the data and improvement tool, in addition to the data collection, I just want to highlight that we will continue working with our tech team, the Dev Hub, to continue developing the data and improvement tool to make further improvements based on the feedback we've received, which has been really helpful to understand how the tool is being used and what additional features will be helpful to really streamline the process of reviewing results and pulling that into reports or QI plans. So the data collection elements are all familiar and there's not been much change, but just as a reminder, so we'll have the bereavement survey, which is a survey of bereaved individuals to assess the quality of care received. The data collection period for that will open on the 20th of January 2026, but a change we have made is that from that point it will be collected continuously. So 2026 won't come to a close and 2027 opens. It will just remain open from the 20th of January onwards, so you won't need to do any winding down or worry about who you're sending invites to in time for it closing. The case note review, again, is a review of deaths which will occur in 2026. The data collection for that will open on the 20th of January 2026 and it will close on the 15th of January the following year. The staff reported measure, as I mentioned earlier, will be reintroducing for the acute and community audit. And so we'll collect staff feedback from that. And again, that will be open for 1 quarter. So the 1st of January, 1st of April 2026 to the 30th of June. And that is aimed at staff who are likely to come into contact with dying people and those important to them. And then we have the annual death data collection, which is a small collection to understand the number of deaths per year and how participation in the bereavement survey has been approached in your trust or health board. And the data collection period for that will open on the 1st of January 2027. So after 2026 has sort of been complete in terms of data collection otherwise. And that will remain open until the 28th of February 27 to allow time for you to work with business intelligence to gather the accurate figures that you need and reduce the time pressure of getting that to us at such a busy period in the year. And just a little recap of timescale. So very similar to previous years, the case note review will have 2 main collection periods, one for the first 6 months of the year, one for the second 6 months of the year. As I mentioned, the bereavement survey will be continuous. The staff reported measure will open for 1 quarter and the annual death data collection will open after 2026 has been completed. And we've then got some reporting timescales underneath, again, very similar. Results for the case note review and the bereavement survey will become available on the data and improvement tool from the 1st of April, and then they will update daily from there. And then the staff reported measure will become visible once that collection window is closed, so from the 1st of July. And similarly, the annual death data collection information will be available following data collection closing. And All of this information will be available on the NACEL portal and included in the guidance documents once they're published. So I'm just going to go into a little bit more detail now on each of the audit elements, starting with the bereavement survey. So this isn't a survey that can be contributed to both online and offline. It's an anonymous survey of the bereaved person's experience and their perception of the care delivered to the dying person during their final admission to hospital. We're aware that this audit element in particular has been difficult for some organisations to participate in. And as a result of that, we do see lower levels of participation in this element compared to the others. But we do really want to increase the amount of feedback that is submitted and the number of organisations that are able to participate in this element. And so thank you to everyone again who's shared feedback with us, because that's meant we've been able to respond to that and hopefully increase participation levels. So we've introduced continuous data collection, as I mentioned, but we've also got what we hope will be a solution to collecting narrative responses and reducing the burden of uploading offline responses to NACEL. We also heard that some organisations shared with us that the survey had been too lengthy and that this was affecting participation. So we've reduced the number of questions from 31 to 18, and the survey should take around 5 to 10 minutes to complete. In terms of timescales, so it will still relate to deaths that occur between the 1st of January 2026 and the 31st of December. So all eligible bereaved people can be invited to participate. The online survey can be accessed via a unique URL or QR code, and that relates back to your submission. So if you have multiple submissions, you will have multiple links, each one specific to your submissions. If you want to do the survey offline, that list of questions can be downloaded and printed from the audit guidance page. So once the data specifications are uploaded, you can go to that page and download a printable version of the survey. And as we did for the sort of transition from 2024 to 25, we will redirect previous links. So if you're still using your 24 QR code or link, or if you want to continue using your 2025 QR code or link, you can do that into 2026. They will still work and they will still map to the correct submissions. So you won't need to go in and redo all of your resources unless you want to. But that's something that we hope will make things easier to switch onto from this year to next. So this is just a reminder of the eligibility criteria. I won't read through it all, but just a reminder that deaths which are sudden and unexpected should be excluded. We understand that you can't control who contributes, so you may have some that respond that are outside of the eligibility criteria, but we just ask that you do what you can to avoid that. So not putting posters up or distributing leaflets in wards where the death wouldn't be eligible, or not inviting, excluding those wards from the list of invites that go out. And in terms of disseminating the survey, so this is obviously flexible to suit each organisation. You may choose to use emails, text, letters, putting up posters, or reaching out to medical examiners who are sometimes able to support. And we do have example templates, so of the posters, leaflets and letters. We have those available on the portal. and you can edit these to suit your organisation. So they're there as a starting point. You can add your own logo to those, and you can edit the wording if you would prefer to use something different, but we have that available so that you're not starting from scratch. And we have a list of sort of tips and tricks that people from participating organisations have very kindly shared with us in the past, of how they have been able to collect the bereavement survey. And the link to those two documents are just at the bottom of the slide there. But I would like to ask that if anyone who maybe didn't contribute to that document at the time, or they've got an update, if there are any tips or tricks that you would like to share with us, please do send them over to the team, and we'll be happy to update that to have some more up-to-date examples in those documents. So again, just as a reminder, I'm going to talk through the process of collecting the online survey, which starts with dissemination. So firstly, you'll need to identify what method you want to distribute the survey with, how you'll identify the eligible bereaved people, and if you are going to use promotional materials, obviously get those in order beforehand, and then you can invite the bereaved people to participate. Some organisations do also ring ahead to discuss this with them, with the bereaved people, or as part of a standard phone call anyway, just to gauge interest there so that they're not receiving a letter out of the blue. Then the next step will be that the bereaved person then accesses the survey online. They submit that, and that comes through to us. We'll then store that information and report it back on the data and improvement tool. And just to add, going forward, we'll be using a platform called Userway. You may have seen that logo around on various websites, including our own. And this tool is a way to improve the accessibility of a website. So it allows a really easy way to increase the font size, to change the colour scheme of a screen to make it more easily readable. And we're also exploring a feature of Userway, which we hope will mean that we can offer the survey translated into over 40 languages. So we hope that that will also mean the survey is more accessible to a wider range of people. Now, the offline survey process, again, can be followed in a very similar way. So you'll need to print the survey and send that out. The bereaved person can then complete the survey and return that to the hospital. Once that survey has been received, someone at the hospital will need to upload that feedback onto the submit it to us essentially, and then again that can be reported by us in the data and improvement tool. Now we can see there we've got new developments that we've made to support this process, and this is probably going to be the biggest change in terms of the process of collecting data that we've made, and that is the upload function. So if you receive surveys not through the NACEL survey site, so usually on paper, an Excel document that we'll make in terms a template will provide you with that, and you can then fill the data in to collate the responses that have been received and then submit that to us for upload. So rather than for each survey that comes through, you complete the survey as if you were that person entering their data, clicking submit and then starting over. You can put them all in a spreadsheet and then send them to us for upload. If you're from an organisation that has multiple submissions, you would need to do this separately for each submission so that each one has its own Excel document. If multiple submissions were put into one, we wouldn't be able to split them out and identify them back to that submission. So we just ask that they are submitted separately to us. And then once we receive those templates that have been populated with responses, we'll then upload them quarterly. We're not able to support more frequent uploads at the moment, but we do hope that this will reduce the administration time. Obviously, if you do complete these surveys one by one, they will submit to the data and improvement tool, and you can see those results more quickly. But if you're happy to wait for the quarterly upload and submit this in a template, we can support with uploading that more, hopefully much more smoothly. So another change to the bereavement survey that I'd like to outline is the ability to participate fully, as many organisations have been doing, but also an alternative option is to just participate partially and collect responses to specific questions, which are then returned to us and uploaded. So as in previous years, and the sort of standard way that, and we would encourage this, trusts take part in the full bereavement survey, whether that's online, using a paper version, and uploading that, or sending us the template and we'll upload it. Option 2, which is particularly aimed at those organisations that haven't been able to participate in the bereavement survey because of sort of limitations, I suppose, of the dissemination and distribution and getting that engagement. We would ask that those organisations integrate at least the 8 essential questions in the survey that we've identified, and then send those results to us. You can, if you wanted to collect more questions from NACEL, you're welcome to do that, but we have these 8 that we've identified as essential. And then this can allow you to collect narrative responses if you want, that are returned to the trust, but they don't come to us. And other questions, so perhaps information that's particularly relevant locally, or relate specifically to care delivered in a hospital, specific schemes that are available, that we aren't able to collect as a national audit. You can collect those, but then submit the national responses to the questions that we would like, and then they can still contribute to the national data set and to your organisation's results on the data and improvement tool and in the report. So the essential questions that we've identified are here. They are: was the person given enough pain relief? Did the person have enough relief of symptoms other than pain, such as nausea, breathlessness, or restlessness? Did the person have support to drink or receive fluid if they wished? Did staff provide you with spiritual, religious, and cultural support to meet your needs? And then 2 questions which ask overall, how would you rate the care and support given by the hospital to the person and to you and other close relatives or friends during the person's final admission in hospital? And then 3 demographic questions, which are: when did the death occur? What did the person who died regard as their ethnicity? And what do you regard as your ethnicity? It is important to note that the questions and the answer options must align with NACEL for these questions in order to be submitted to the data collection. If the questions don't match, the template wouldn't work, and we wouldn't be able to map any other responses to the NACEL data set, so we wouldn't be able to collect those. But those are the 8 questions that we are asked. So I'll now move on to the case note review. Mary, yeah.
Just to say, you've about 5 minutes, just so you know where you are time-wise.
Thank you. Well, I won't take too long. I think that was the biggest sort of thing to absorb. So the case note review, again, very similar. So it's a review of documented care within the patient's clinical and nursing records during the final episode of care. Again, 2 6-month data collections, one for the first half of the year, one for the second. Each submission should complete a case note review for a minimum of 20 consecutive deaths from the start of each quarter and a maximum of 70. Again, if you can submit higher, particularly in those organisations with a higher number of deaths, we would encourage that to ensure the sample is as representative as possible. And of course, if there aren't that many deaths that occur in a hospital, and you can't review 20 per quarter, we obviously completely understand that. So please do contribute what you can and submit data for the eligible deaths. But if you aren't able to reach the 20, that's no problem, just let us know. So as I mentioned earlier, the main changes that we've seen are a reduction in the number of questions from 54 to 40. We've also added clarity to the questions and the guidance based on the feedback we've received. So one thing to note as well is that you may have seen this year that you were asked what if the patient arrived via ED, what the date and time of arrival were, and then if recognition of dying happened before the patient arrived on the ward, but they were in ED, it wasn't possible to enter that date and time of recognition. We've been able to change that. So if the patient is recognised as dying in ED, you can enter the correct date and time to demonstrate where recognition is occurring before the patient arrives on the ward. So you can see that we've largely kept the questions the same. So we have removed 17 questions, but we've kept 37 of them. And the 3 that we've introduced are sort of variations on previous questions that we've had, but just in a more clear way. So it's not 3 new questions that will sort of catch you off guard. Again, the criteria for eligibility, we've got that category 1, category 2 question. And just to sort of make this clear as well, the patient doesn't need to have been recognised as dying at the point of admission in order to be classed as a category 1 death. So if at any point during the final admission the patient is recognised as dying, this would be a category 1, not a category 2. Data submission is the same, so you'll go onto the members area, click data collection and add those case notes as you have been doing. And in order to track the case codes so that you're able to re-identify patients if you need, you can still download that Excel file that will pull off a list of all of the case codes that you've entered. So I'll try and keep this brief, but to help streamline your data collection process, we would encourage you to liaise with your audit department and business intelligence department. We did a short survey earlier this year, and one of the questions related to interaction with business intelligence departments, and we found that while 50% said that they did work with their business intelligence department, for the case note review, 50% did not. So what we would like to ask is that if you are working with your business intelligence department and it's helped you to sort of streamline the process in any way, please do let us know, because we can then collate this, these different methods and different processes that people are using, and share that to make sort of have a bit of a shared knowledge resource that everyone can then look into and explore if there are ways that they can streamline their processes as well. And on a similar vein, I mentioned earlier that we're looking to introduce SNOMED codes in our guidance. This is a universal language for clinical information, ensuring consistency and accuracy. The aim is to reduce the clinical time required to complete the case note review. And again, we would encourage clinicians to use SNOMED codes to record patient palliative and end-of-life care information consistently to make data entry and sharing faster, easier, and more accurate. So with that in mind, we would like to ask for your help. We've identified SNOMED codes that we feel link to the questions that we ask, but we would like to consult with participating organisations to understand if those SNOMED codes we've identified are accurate. So when we release the case note review tomorrow, it won't have SNOMED codes in, but we would like to then make a version with SNOMED codes in the guidance available for when data collection opens in January. So if you would like to volunteer to support us with this throughout the next few months before data collection opens, please do let us know by getting in touch at nhsbn.nacelsupport@nhs.net, and then we'll get back in touch and set up this sort of pilot scheme. Now I'm conscious of time, sorry, so I'll quickly go through the staff reported measure. Here, there isn't really any change. So it's an online survey aimed at members of staff who are likely to come into contact with dying people and those important to them. Data collection will open on the 1st of April and close on the 30th of June. Again, it can be accessed through a URL link and QR code. We'll be providing templates for the posters, leaflets, and again, you can reuse your QR code and link from 2024 if you would prefer, and that will redirect, or if you want to use the 2026 QR code and link, you can do that as well. And lastly, the annual death data collection. This is a small collection, again, as I mentioned earlier, to understand the number of deaths that are occurring within the hospital site within 2026 and what ways you're participating with the bereavement survey, so we can understand if the changes we've made are helpful and we can continue to explore those and improve them, or if they don't work and we continue to use the sort of traditional methods that we have been doing. And that will open on the 1st of January 2027 and close on the 28th of February 2027. I'm going to hand over to Giovanni now for next steps.
Thank you very much, Heather. Lots of information. Glad this is being recorded so that people have the opportunity to go back. Giovanni, please take your 5 minutes, which will leave us just over 10 to actually address any questions. Off you go.
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Giovanni Zapata, and I serve as the project coordinator for the NACEL team. So I'll be walking you through some next steps. This includes checking your registration details. So as we prepare to launch registration, we are asking all organizations to please check your current registration details by logging into the NHS Benchmarking Network members area and checking that your current NACEL 2025 registration details are to remain the same for NACEL 2026. If there are any changes to be made, please contact the NACEL support team by the 14th of November. After this point, the registration details will be moved over for 2026. You can do this by going over to our NACEL portal. As many of you may have noticed, the NACEL portal has been going through some upgrades and changes. So when you are on the NACEL portal page, on the main page, you can either go to the top on the tab for where it says for professionals, or in the bottom where it says participate in the audit. These buttons will both take you to the same page, which is this page, which is the for professionals. And then the data collection login button, squared off in red, will take you to the members area page where you can check your registration details. On this page, you can also find links to data and improvement tool resources, as well as QI resources and other platforms. So some next steps: review the audit guidance and resources. So the audit guidance and data specifications for NACEL 2026 will be available to download from the NACEL guidance page on the portal by end of day tomorrow. Start by reviewing the guidance for the bereavement survey and then the case note review, as these collections are due to open first. Explore how you will identify the appropriate bereaved persons to invite for the bereavement survey. We recommend that you contact your organization's bereavement office for assistance in promoting participation in the specific survey. Data collection will open on Tuesday, the 20th of January, 2026. Again, starting with the case note review and the bereavement survey. These staff reported measure were open in April 2026 and will remain open for only 3 months. We are asking that you support the creation of a guidance document, so please send any examples of how you work with your BIU teams to our helpline. The team looks to produce a guidance document to support the streamline of the data collection process. In addition, we're seeking volunteers to support the SNOMED code verification. So if you know of anyone who would support the review of the SNOMED codes within the case note review, please share their details with our helpline as well. And then please subscribe to our NACEL monthly newsletter. We send out very important details and updates on what is happening, all things NACEL. You can easily do this by going through our portal and clicking on the top right on the news. And if you scroll all the way down, there'll be a box there to insert your email and to sign up for our newsletter as well. And then lastly, apart from the members area, we also offer the data and improvement tool, which requires a separate registration per person to view the data from the current year or previous years. So we ask that if you're not registered to that, please do so. Approval and denial privileges are in the hands of the admin, which is normally your organization's project lead. We recommend to contact this person immediately after you register, so it lands at the top of their inbox and they can easily identify your request. And then again, this requires a separate login and registration from the one that you use for the members area. So I sped through that, but I will now pass it on back to my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Jess, Heather, and Giovanni. Thank you very much. I can see that